In World War II, the Germans developed so what they would do is they would fly the planes in blind, right? So no one knew. So it would be pitch black, and they would use radar beams to guide the planes. And so they would use intersecting beams, and they would know, okay, this is where I need to go. That way, no one knew where they were at. Then they thought, wait, we can do this kind of in reverse, and we can attack this way. We can show the plane where to drop the bomb if we actually intersect the beams. Once it gets there and it has a coherent signal, it'll know, oh, I dropped the bomb. So this was actually proposed to the British, and they turned it down because like, no, this won't work because the radius of the Earth is going to block those signals way before any tactical position. The Germans did it, and the Germans did it from 400 or 500 miles away. They intercepted these two signals, and first attempt just destroyed a warehouse that was manufacturing engines and stuff. And it should have been blocked at roughly 30 miles, according to the globe Earth math. And they sent it hundreds of miles and successfully blew up the building. I'm definitely open to some type of explanation for that because that is not physically possible, and it has to have specific coherency. So, beams obviously they spread out and diverge as they go further, but it had to have a maximum width of a few hundred yards intercepted in a very precise way so that the plane could blow.
Now, here's the other issue. The Allies claimed that their ability to bomb so accurately at night was because they ate carrots. You guys know the story?
No.
A rumor was spread that there was high carrot consumption, which improved their eyesight, and that's why they were so good at hitting targets at night when it was actually a technological development they didn't want the Germans to know that we had. So my point in this is the challenge, obviously, for all of these conversations goes back to just like the standard philosophical, are you just trusting something you read? And so how much of it is I did a study that could not confirm X, which is very limited data because you have to try and replicate it multiple times. And then, depending on your view of modern science, you'd want some kind of peer review. So if you're telling a story about how the Germans did this thing, it's like, or they lied. Or the Germans lied.
They blew up the warehouse at night somehow, right?
Yeah. They had a spy. And they didn't want the Allies to know that they had a spy who gave them accurate information and timing and telemetry, et cetera.
Or they stole the signal. But Tim,
the challenge is that there's good reason for one of the questions about aliens. Why does the United States claim, these hearings where they're like, there are aliens here, and then you had that one guy in the 90s, I can't remember his name, but he was on Joe Rogan, he was talking about how he saw aliens. The purpose of that is actually relatively simple. They could be trying to convince our adversaries that we hold secret technologies that can destroy them, that they can't figure out what we have. So for the Germans to say like, oh, we did this thing with radar, the U.S. is like, but that's impossible. We can't figure it out. The confusion and the fear in your enemy is valuable to lie. So those stories could be, who knows?
Sure, but if we get to the point where we all agree, if we were to agree that would falsify the globe if real, now we've made like fruitful progress, right? Because then we'd be like, well, let's try to imitate this. Now, obviously, imitating that's not going to happen, really.
Occam's razor would suggest the Germans just lied.
Maybe. It's actually acknowledged. It's acknowledged by even the Allies that they use this technology, and I'll even go a step further and tell you the supposed explanation as to how it happened on the globe, and this is all anyone's ever said, is diffraction. That basically the Earth would block the beam and then it would fill back in behind it, and it would keep doing that. The problem is that wouldn't maintain the coherency needed to intercept the beams, and I've never got a next rebuttal. So, good point. Obviously, I wasn't there. I can't verify that. I've gone and tested the Earth myself. That's actually my primary reason.
You believe the Earth is round?
Yeah.
So what is how do you feel about it?
I don't know. I have never heard this before, so I'd have to investigate it. But your point, if I can elaborate on your point, that they could have lied, it could have been this, could have been that, and we don't know. Okay, so let's go back to this Earth fixed or not fixed issue, and there's another experiment that was interpreted in two different ways by many scientists, and that was the 1887 Michelson-Morley experiment. Very simple experiment. You probably know about it, right? Okay, so if the Earth is moving around the sun at about 20 miles a second, and you shoot a light beam in the direction that the Earth is moving, that light beam should be impeded by space. At that time, they thought ether. Okay, so space is a something. It's not a nothing, because nothing does not exist. So it has to be something. Something's going to impede that light beam, and they could tell you by how much that light beam would be impeded. They can figure it out, okay?
The speed of the Earth.
Yeah. So here's the problem. It didn't show any resistance to the light beam, space, okay? They couldn't measure anything. It measured just a little bit, but not enough for an Earth going around the sun. Okay? So the obvious interpretation of that experiment is, well, the Earth isn't moving. That's why there wasn't any impedance of the light beam. Okay? Well, we can't have that because we're all Copernicans, you see. We believe since the time of Copernicus that the Earth does move around the sun. So there has to be another explanation. This is where your lie may come in, you see. The explanation is there is no ether. And the light beam couldn't be impeded because the ether doesn't exist, which is a la special relativity. That's Einstein's special relativity in a nutshell. Okay? So here's another way to explain the same experiment as opposed to a fixed Earth. Which one's correct? Okay? So we went on for a while where, okay, Einstein has to be correct. We all want to be Copernicans. We don't want to kiss the feet of the Pope. So we'll take his explanation.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. So subscribe and come hang out.